Hi, this podcast is recorded on Gadigal land. Lee and I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this place and also the custodians of the place where you're listening, wherever you are.
Hello, love.
Hi. So I'm actually really liking this redraw. I just walked into this studio and suddenly everything has changed. Normally it's sofas and now it's welcome to 7:30, I'm Lee Sales.
Straight across the desk to paint a visual for anyone who's listening along at home.
Which means that at some point I'll do this.
Again, to describe it for those of you listening to the podcast, she's taken off her glasses and is doing an impersonation of me.
I'm just
very stern.
deliberately folding the glasses. I'm putting them back on because I'll immediately lose them.
I hate to be predictable, but I feel like my content is just so sales this week.
More Ryan Reynolds.
There's three elements to it. You've correctly guessed more Ryan Reynolds.
Jesus Christ, is that? How can there be more content?
Second element, sports documentaries. Third element, doing crazy stuff at festivals. A la that time I went and stayed in the Mushroom Building overnight and got music pumped at me. I've been doing something as part of Vivid. I'll fill you in about. But let's dive straight into my favourite, Ryan Reynolds. Okay, Wrexham season 3. I've started watching.
There's a new season.
There's a
I
new
didn't even
season.
know there was a
Wrexham.
second. Anyway.
I tell you what it's made me realise though, if you're making a fly-in-the-wall documentary about something that's happening, there's a lot of drama early on because you come in and you can make some change and you can make progress really quickly, but then you have to wait. It takes time because you have to wait for people to get to be better players and to practice. And so now we've hit a point where
nothing's happening.
Wrexham, the football team, has made some rapid progress and now we just have to watch them playing games. And so I've suddenly found it a bit less interesting. They're still dishing up some very interesting characters from the town, but I'm less interested in the actual sort of...
How fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing about, and I've only really had one crack at shooting a doco, and that was that time that we did that sort of fly-on-the-wall type doco about Parliament House.
Oh, yeah. The house. Yeah.
The house.
Yeah.
The house. And the constantly anxiety-inducing element of that was that we're on an ABC budget, so we can't be there, like we can't have crews everywhere all the time. Trying to pick where the action is going to happen, trying to pick which bit of legislation is going to be the one that ends up in a sort of drunken scuffle on the last night of sitting.
Yeah.
Obviously, I say drunken, just exaggerating. The constant feeling that you are missing out on something that is a really crucial building block.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine, given that Ryan Reynolds' availability for filming must be just incredibly minimal because
I think
he's in 1,000 movies at once, which is what constitutes your intake.
I think what they're doing is that they have these interviews with Ryan Reynolds and the other guy whose name always escapes me.
That guy, the more famous guy.
McElhenney.
No,
Rob
the
McElhenney.
less famous guy.
The less famous guy, Rob McElhenney.
Yep.
I think they go and shoot interviews with them where they do everything in a block, but you've got to talk in present tense. So, okay, we're going to be back at that game at such and such, talk about it in the present tense. So I think they do a lot of pickups later. And then every now and again, Ryan is over there watching a game. So I suspect there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors going on about how often Ryan is actually there.
But are there enough nut bars in the Wrexham kind of non-Hollywood actor casting circle to keep things kind of...
because now that you're in season 3, you know some of the players quite well. And the coach and the guy who actually manages the club called Humphrey, you sort of know all of them. But what they do every week is they'll usually have someone who's a different person in the town. Like they had this amazing person the other week in the episode I watched who's a photographer, and he photographs action around game day, people going in and people celebrating in pubs and stuff. He's autistic and he's scared of the crowd. He's never been inside this stadium to watch an actual game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's incredible.
This makes me more interested in watching it.
And I suspect it, obviously the satisfying narrative will be if at some point towards the end of the season that guy goes inside and watches a game. But as you and I know, again, one of the perils of non-fiction is, yes, that feels like it would be the most satisfying narrative, but that dude may never go inside to watch a game.
Right. I think he's probably got perfectly good reasons for never having done it.
That's
up
exactly
to now,
right.
and they are unlikely to be shifted by the demands of
narrative.
Narrative.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that series, that TV show called Unreal?
What was it about again?
It was about essentially it was about The Bachelorette. But it was so it's a drama series that is behind the scenes of a dating reality show.
Right. No,
right?
I didn't, but I heard good things about it.
So the first season was spectacularly good. Sadly, the second season was not great, but I'm completely compelled by the lead character, and I can't actually remember the name of the actor. So she's, a producer on this, dating show. And so her job is to wrangle, basically it's the Bachelor, not Bachelorette. There's the guy who's the, dude that all of these women are vying for in the mansion. And she's kind of like a really complex character as well, because she loathes the job. She sort of hates everything that it stands for, but she's really good at it. But she hates herself for being so good at it. So it's actually just glorious to watch her go through these sort of cycles of self-loathing. She also is constantly getting into trouble. Her love life is a total mess. She's like been dumped. She's heartbroken, and then like all this complication emerges. But the thing that is fascinating about it, and I know it's made up, but I'm absolutely prepared to believe that this shit goes on, is what you see about the devices that they use to sow discord, among the contestants. Like, they've clearly had a lot of consultants that have worked very closely. And the fact that that she despises the very core of what she's doing and yet does it anyway. Like, so she's like pouring drinks down girls' throats and kind of like, telling this one that one's said whatever. And,
Right.
So I guess if you're at the really serious big budget end of reality TV, there is a lot of like making characters do things or editing them in a way that makes them look like assholes, or because every series needs a jerk and a, redemptive character and so on.
Yeah, it must be kind of somewhat challenging, I'd think, to be working in that kind of
community.
Space. Well, yeah, and I mean, for Wrexham, they seem to be taking a lot of care because it's real people's lives, in the community. I'm shooting a show at the moment for the ABC that'll be on in August called The Assembly, and I
cannot wait for this show. Are you allowed to sort of describe it a bit?
Just let me do all the describing, because I know what can be discussed publicly. I'm just thinking.
So
because
the bit where you get your gear off, is that public or not public? Is it?
I'm just thinking.
The bit where you get shouldered by Peter Costello. Is that public yet? Not or not?
Of course I tell you stuff as we're going through the shooting, and I'm just in our private sort of messages, and I'm worried you'll just drop out. Now, guest number 1 is blah, 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 blah. No, it's a group of...
I love how you think I don't understand discretion at all. It's like... It's lovely, thank you.
So it's a group of autistic people who come in and they sit down with a celebrity, a politician, a sporting person, and they ask them whatever questions they want. And I'm the group's mentor, and I help them get to the questions that they want to ask, and try to give them a bit of confidence and just all the different things that you do to help people. I've been so impressed with the production team working on it in terms of the amount of care that they've shown to all of the participants, and also it's using my full skill set, but in a kind of different way that I normally use it, because I'm not the front and center person. I'm enabling other people to be the front and center people. Everyone's needs are so individually different. So to manage on any given day, or somebody feels overwhelmed today, or somebody's this way today, and just to deal with whatever's going on. Or somebody's really, they're in the background of shot and they're stimming and throwing their hands around wildly. Can I go and get them a fidget spinner and subtly hand it over so they've got something to do to calm themselves down? So there's all these different things that you're trying to manage and be looking after everyone as you go.
That's so cool. I'm so interested to see this. Is there a pattern, like... I'm not going to say any names of guests. I don't even know the names of all the guests, i.e. the people that are being interviewed by your cast. But, like, have you noticed anything about the level of comfortableness with, because I'm assuming the sort of questions that are coming up aren't going to be like, what is the off-road deflator for diesel, or, whatever.
The range of questions, I don't know if anyone's seen, there was a clip that went viral the other week, and it was the British actor Michael Sheen, because the BBC's just released their version of this show, and he was interviewed by somebody. The questions can be so absolutely random, and that's part of what's fantastic. And it means, but everything's kind of asked, I guess, on the same plane. So asking somebody, who's the most famous person you've ever met, or what can you do to help me find a job, will be asked in exactly the same way as what's your favorite color. And so the interviewee is constantly on their toes. And so, and the people that we're working with, they're also, I've so thoroughly enjoyed it because I've loved getting to know everyone individually and all their interests that they bring to it. And it's just a really fascinating thing. And I'm looking forward to talking more about it. But it is, again, the challenges of when you're dealing with real life, actual people who have real life things that you've got to manage as you go. And that poses challenges that if you care about the people involved, you're trying to, work with all the time. Anyway, I've loved it.
Okay, making television where you care about the participants.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's not orthodox.
I think the thing too for Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney is, of course, there's big reputational risk because if you screw up life for people in the town, well, you're wearing that.
It's the sort of David Attenborough dilemma as well, isn't it? Because you try and make a nature documentary without changing the events of this world that you're trying to capture. I mean, it's like anthropologists as well. Like you go in and you're observing. But in this case, the presence of, cameras for 3 series in this town that's sort of come about because of this sort of bizarrely sort of spectral whim of these distant movie stars.
Americans.
I mean, surely that town changes because it's now famous. I mean,
it has to have absolutely.
And,
but I think
grown up in a small town, like the second somebody gets recognized for somebody, and then so and so didn't get the call out.
And why is his pub in the show, and now he's getting all the tourists coming there, and my pub's just as good? Like I bet there'd have to be some tension like that.
I actually feel like going to Wrexham and making a podcast, that interview.
Frank, I mean, I never Google Wrexham because I'm always worried that I'll get a spoiler about the team's just qualified for the blah, blah, blah. But I bet you somebody probably has gone to do a piece about how Wrexham was affected. I went when I was in the States to Savannah to do, I'm sure I've talked about this on the pod before, to do a piece
about. You've also talked about it relentlessly to me. But
to do a piece about how Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil,
the John Berendt novel,
had affected Savannah, where it was set, because it was on the New York Times bestseller list for about 6 years, and the whole town had been just, this tourism industry had sprung up around this novel. And, some people loved it, some people didn't, and I'm sure that would be exactly the same in Wrexham.
This is why I'm only posting my memoir posthumously, because the town I grew up in, Two Wells, I mean, the title of the memoir is Two Wells is Not Enough. Get it? It's like a Bond movie. Get it? Yeah. Anyway, but obviously it'll be very destructive.
Well, absolutely. And then when there's
been on the New York Times bestseller list.
Then when there's the bus tours of here's where Annabelle Crabb, had her first kiss, and here's where she grew up.
Mate, it wasn't into Two Wells, let me tell you.
Anyway,
not because of the lack of attractiveness of any of the candidates. It's just that I was a very late bloomer.
Now, Ryan Reynolds, I also went and watched the show because no one's heard of Rob McElhenney. I went and watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that he is in.
Okay, I've watched nearly every episode of that show.
Have you?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh.
But I watched it years ago when it was first cool.
Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. Like Friends, it's dated very badly with the humour.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it in that it's Rob McElhenney's likeable. I lived in Philadelphia for a while, so I enjoyed seeing something set in Philly. But there was quite a lot of like, gee, did we used to laugh about that?
Yeah. Jeremy and I used to watch it, when it was first made, and just thought it was so funny. And weirdly enough, it's funny you should raise it because he put it on last night and I was just like, clearing up the kitchen. And I was sort of like having already a bit of a fume about women in the media industry, just owing to some unconnected recent events in the real world. And it made me fly into a rage, actually.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, because I always remember it being so funny and I loved it. And as I was watching it last night, just sort of, I thought, this is a one gag show about a hot, dumb chick. Like, I feel like, I don't know.
Does it still get made now? Or is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if
I used to love it. And I love all the actors in it. They're terrific. It's a great cast. But now, like when I watch comedy series again and again and again that I find, comforting to watch again and again. I watch with the kids Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Community, and also
Silicon Valley?
No. The one about where Tina, oh God.
30
Leslie
Rock.
Nopes. Parks and Recreation.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, right.
Thank you.
Right.
I watch all 3 of those series on a loop with my kids if we're just, sitting around.
Right.
And it's just funny and great television. And I didn't get that looping back to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It leapt out to me too.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, isn't that good that, we're evolving as a species? But my treat for you is that in the last fortnight, I have consumed Ryan Reynolds content.
Get out of the city.
I will not. I will remain in the city indefinitely.
Wow, with your newfound Ryan Reynolds fetish.
Despite all of my best intentions to never consume any content related to this man, I went to the cinema and saw a film called If.
Oh, okay.
With my 11-year-old daughter.
And, okay, what did you think, firstly, just without the overall film, what did you make of Ryan Reynolds?
No, I'm not giving you the treat. You've got to press the bar a few times before you get the pellet, mate. Like, God damn it. You understand about this. So here's the backstory. Kate said, oh, yeah, movies today. And my usual answer is no. And I thought, actually, I could take you to the movies. You poor third-born child. You don't ask for much. You mainly occupy yourself with craft projects. And I should take you to the movies. So I did. And she was like, let's go see this. It's called If. I'm like, what's it about? And I could see that it had animation in it. And she said it's about imaginary friends. I'm like, cool.
Oh, I've seen a promo for this. It looks great.
Okay.
Oh, it's not.
No.
Oh, John Krasinski wrote it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign, right?
Yeah.
John Krasinski,
Yes.
I really like.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is in it. And
Heaps of famous people are in it.
Well, heaps of famous people are in it. So the people whose famous faces you see are Ryan Reynolds, a young actor called Callie Fleming, who's terrific. And Krasinski. Voices of Emily Blunt, who is
Mrs. Krasinski.
Correct.
Yeah.
Did not know that. Steve Carell, Awkwafina, Blake Lively, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Louis Gossett Jr. So it's
just
star crammed.
All Ryan Reynolds
and
friends.
I'm like, this is going to be great. And I'm actually, I don't want to do spoiler alerts, but I seriously think you need to know what this movie is before you walk into it. Because by the end of the film, Kate and I were, Kate was howling.
Oh.
And I was ugly crying to the point where I felt I couldn't go on.
Oh, wow.
And I think maybe both of us are a little bit the same way minded. And essentially the theme of the story, and I knew it was going to be trouble when in the opening sequences, there's Callie Fleming, who's this young girl, and Ryan Reynolds is her dad, and he's this kind of fun-loving, prank-pulling, charming, and her mum is beautiful, and there's a voiceover from the kids saying, my mum always used to say, tell me a story. Later on, I understood that the stories weren't about me, they were about her, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. This mum is going to last as long as Bambi's mum. This is not. And I said to Kate, is this a sad movie? She's like, I don't know, but this is looking not good for the mum. And then there's an empty hospital bed and, the mum's gone. So then it's just the girl and her dad.
Right.
And then it becomes she's very kind of when you see her, again, she's 12 or 13, she's hard as nails. She's her dad is sort of trying to be a fun dad and bring out the child in her. She's put away the child.
Right.
Okay, so it's
right.
Okay.
Right.
And then then her dad's in hospital now, undergoing an operation, and she's like, I can't lose another parent. I'm like, oh, okay. When does the animation start? And then she meets a man, John Krasinski, who is attempting to break into a house that she's walking home to her grandmother's house inexplicably alone through the streets of New York. Kate's like, why is she allowed out so late? I'm like, I don't understand what's happening with this film. And that's when the story starts. This guy, John Krasinski, is running a secret bureau of that is trying to reunite or reassign imaginary friends that children have grown up and forgotten about.
Right.
So basically it's Puff the Magic Dragon, but for 2 hours and with Louis Gossett Jr., right? And so I had to be, as about a 5-year-old, physically carried out of Bambi because and I have always feared the song Puff the Magic Dragon because the thought of anything being abandoned.
This sounds like the worst possible. Did Toy Story set you off as well? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't see, like, the death of Bing Bong, like the sacrifice. Sorry, oh God, anyway. There are some kids' movies that, like, did you ever see that film My Girl, like in the 90s?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
I think I needed actual therapy for several years after seeing that as an adult.
What about the start of Up?
Mate, I can't tell you how troubling I find all of these things.
Oh, yeah,
like, it's so
hard work, yeah.
Anyway, and Kate, as it turns out, is the same way. Like, so at the end, we couldn't leave the cinema because we were heaving with sobs.
Oh, no.
I mean, like, it's a beautiful film. Like, it's kind of like a gorgeous film. Its premise is interesting. It has these beautiful, heart-rending, and yet kind of like, it's gorgeous. It is an emotional rodeo, and I got thrown off again and again. Wow. And at the end, Kate and I we were holding each other. Kate was sobbing, why is it like this? This is rated G. I'm like, yeah, it is. The animation is fantastic. But wow. And we turned around and both of us were and there's all these people just like packing up their popcorn. And I'm like, and Kate's like, how are they going on? Like, anyway.
Oh, okay. Thanks for warning me of that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good public service that you've delivered there, because the promo, it's clear that it's going to be kind of moving, but it doesn't quite let you know how many emotional dirty bombs are going to be packed into it. So.
But there are some soaring moments of, like the word that begins with R that I can never remember, but like you're crying happy tears.
Oh, okay. All right. But it's just a lot of emotion. A lot of emotion, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I might, my boys for some reason find it very distressing if I cry. If a movie's sad, they will be constantly like hyper vigilant, like looking at me. And so sometimes I'll even be not crying. And then one of them will be going, are you crying? You look like you're going to cry. And I'll be like, no, I'm fine. And they'll be like, your eyes look like they're getting a bit teary. They just can't stand it.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't have a clear bead on whether you would find this as triggering as I did. I think if Miranda Murphy went to see this film, she would be just destroyed.
It's the opening.
Did you have an imaginary friend?
No.
Did you have a stuffed toy that you were very attached to?
I had some that I liked, but none like Bunny.
None that
like,
you
none that I was
anthropomorphized.
No.
Yeah, so you might be all right. I think if you're an anthropomorphizer, you would be, or if you're destroyed by the death of a pet,
Oh, I hate any animal deaths. The opening 10 minutes of Up absolutely destroyed me. I could barely watch on.
That just means that you're a human.
And Toy Story I found pretty hard going as well. They push those kind of nostalgia buttons so amazingly. Okay, I do want to see. I feel like on a day when I feel like I need a big cry, I should maybe go and watch that.
And like I said,
without the boys, so they're not traumatized.
It's a beautiful movie. But I saw people in the cinema, and I think this is the draw of something that's got anything animated in it. It makes you immediately go, "This will be fun for a kid." Also, it's rated G, but also if I would never take a kid who has been bereaved or, like that, I would be very cautious about that. And I think it was like a real shock. Yeah. And I think maybe I didn't choose the film, Kate did.
Yeah.
And she was shocked as well. But that said, we both agreed that it is a beautiful, beautiful movie that some people that we know in our lives should never see.
Yeah, exactly. I think also sometimes with these films, like I wonder, say, for example, with Up, because as you say, you're going in and it's a kids animated film. You are not expecting to be within the first 10 minutes absolutely slammed by this really moving kind of, catalogue of this main character's life. And so I think
we just knew, just from the tone of the music over the montages of this sort of happy mum and dad playing with their beautiful daughter, and I'm like, oh God,
this is going to get
doomed.
Bad real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, have I pushed enough buttons that I can learn what you thought of Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Is he charming?
Yeah.
Was he doing it?
Totally charming.
Okay, all right.
Totally
good.
charming.
Okay. Did you feel like watching that gave you a sense of why he's like, one of the world's biggest film stars? I feel like I'm right at the edge of being able to just get off my Ryan Reynolds jag. I feel like, yeah, he's charming, he's nice, he's handsome. I get it.
Yeah.
He's not too nice. He's not too handsome.
Yeah, he's not too handsome and he's not a cheese ball. Like, I mean, you get the sense, and this is all I'm going to give you, all right? I mean, and this is already more than you deserve. I think the way he plays this character is really perceptive, and he deploys all of this sort of charming comic acting that is saved from being saccharine by its sort of juxtaposition against the resistance that his kid is putting up. So Callie, what's her face, Fleming, the actor who plays the kid, is actually really absorbing and interesting as well, because she is playing, like she's not very old. She's playing a kid who is stuck between being a little kid who's afraid of losing people and being an adult, and she wants to be grown up. And so, like, what she's portraying is actually something quite complicated, and she does a really good job of it, which makes it.
Okay, in this podcast, I think in the 10-year almost history, I've dragged you to two films that we've then potted about. One was 50 Shades of Grey. One was Cats.
Immortal. Yes, and also that Tom Cruise Top Gun 2.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you. You don't regret a second of that. I've taken you to Cabaret, which,
Yes, that was excellent.
Thank you.
Would you be prepared to come to Deadpool v Wolverine? Please. Don't make me beg.
I feel like, did you already tell me that
I'm
such
just
a
a
movie
girl
even exists?
standing in front of a girl begging her to come to Deadpool v Wolverine.
So sorry, now I don't watch any of these films because I kind of hate their dominance of the landscape, and I'm sorry, I just hate them. So that's just sort of an exordium to my response to you, which is just quickly one clarification. Have you mentioned to me before that there is such a thing as Deadpool v Wolverine?
It might even be called Deadpool and Wolverine. I can't remember the actual name. Is
Hugh Jackman involved?
Yes. It's Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Hugh Jackman being the aforementioned Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds being the aforementioned Deadpool.
Is there anything in the backstory of either of these characters that would lead you independently to think that you would like to see them fight each other? Like, is there anything like...
Look, I've not seen any of the Wolverine films, so...
Well, you're the only carbon-based life form on the planet that hasn't.
I know.
Me too, but like...
And as you know,
I love Hugh Jackman as well.
I absolutely loved the two Deadpools. I feel like you haven't seen either Deadpool, have you? Okay,
Correct.
I feel like you probably...
Still current information, thank you.
I feel like you should watch Deadpool, and then if you don't like it, I'm still making you come. We shifted from I've politely asked you to come, and now I'm telling you, you're goddamn coming.
Okay. Here's my answer. Yes. 1,000 times yes. All right. Here's my commitment to you. I'm going to watch Deadpool.
Yep.
Only the first one. I'm not going to watch Deadpool 2. I'm not made of time.
You might find yourself just drawn irresistibly to it after you watch Deadpool 1.
Let's not start sucking each other's dicks right away, okay? So I will watch the Deadpool.
Yep.
I'll put the definite article in front of that, the Deadpool. I'll call it the Deadpool because that will annoy my children who will watch the Deadpool with me.
The Deadpools. They'll watch the Deadpools
almost
with
certainly
me.
have already seen it.
Yeah, they will have probably seen it. Okay, good.
And yes, after an appropriate period has elapsed, I will come in the cinema to see Deadpool v Wolverine with you.
Can we get the special seats where you can get a glass of wine and like put your feet up?
I'll be having about 4 bottles of wine before any of this occurs. No. Yes, I would enjoy that.
Great.
Okay.
Excellent.
Can I tell you about a film that I saw in the last week which made me incredibly happy?
Yes.
Even though it has a very complex and tragic backstory. So you know that during COVID, my household got addicted to musicals via Hamilton, and then we fanned out. Because my older daughter is a musicals nerd, and her favourite, I can't go into the whole list, but one of her favourites to which we became addicted during lockdown was Dear Evan Hanson, which is coming to Australia.
Oh, great.
Yeah. The Cathol group, bless them.
I've never seen it.
Oh, great soundtrack.
Great.
So cannot wait for that. But another is a musical called Waitress.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that musical was based on a film that came out with Kerry Russell that came out in 2006. Have you seen the film?
No.
So the film itself has this just gothically tragic backstory, right? Because it was written by a woman called Adrienne Shelley, who was at that time more famous for being an actor. So she was in the Hal Hartley films Trust and The Unbelievable Truth, 2 absolutely brilliant films. And she is this sort of ethereally beautiful blonde woman. You would absolutely recognise her if you saw her. Anyway, turns out, what do you know? She's also a very talented writer and director. And so she wrote and directed a film called Waitress, which, as you pointed out, stars Kerry Russell. And the story of Waitress is a young woman, she's working as a waitress in some go-nowhere town. She's really great at making pies. She's married to an absolute dickwad and she's very unhappy. And suddenly she gets pregnant and she's like, oh, my God, no, I can't leave him. And the cast is basically her wisecracking colleagues in the diner where she works. Then she falls in love with the doctor that is supervising her pregnancy.
Right.
Anyway, the tragedy of this film is that about a week or 2 before it had its cinematic release, the woman, Adrienne Shelley, who wrote it, was murdered. And it just defies
by a partner or something? Or?
No. She was found dead in her apartment that she shared with her husband and their 2-year-old daughter. And so she was, I think I need to say this. So she was hanging in her bathroom and the police were just like, oh, she's taken her own life. And the husband is just like, no, that is not possible. And he just persisted because the cops were like, this is pretty open and shut. And then they found a footprint in the apartment. It turned out that she'd been murdered by a guy who was working on a construction site nearby. And he eventually confessed, but...
Wow, why? What was the motive?
Well, robbery, that then, he walked into the apartment and was stealing her purse and then she found him and then he kind of panicked and, and choked her. Oh, my God. It's just...
And then he decided to make it look like a suicide.
Correct.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So...
Terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, she was just this incredible talent. And this film, it's hard to watch knowing sort of what happened, but, it's a terrific film. And I think about 10 years later, the singer Sarah Bareilles...
Yeah, I love her. Yeah. She's the star of Girls 5 Ever.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
5. Yeah. So stupid.
Couldn't
I love that every time.
Yep.
Anyway, so she wrote a musical version, which has been absolutely storming Broadway for years.
Yeah.
And so recently and I assume that it's only Hamilton it's really like Hamilton and lockdown that's allowed this to become a thing, and God bless it, The film is simply a filmed version of the
great.
stage musical. So I mean,
Where did you watch it? Because I'd like to watch that.
I watched it on, I can't remember what platform, but it's, I think maybe Apple TV. Like it's available now for streaming.
Great.
It was in the cinema and I meant to go see it and I didn't because I forgot and I was busy. But then when it was raining over the weekend, I went, oh my God, I wonder if Waitress is available for streaming now. And it was. And we all just went, this is the greatest moment ever, and immediately sat down and watched it. And it is glorious.
Great.
I mean, Sarah Bareilles is sorry, I love you and I'm sorry that I can't pronounce your name. I don't know what's going on. Is like terrific in it.
Great.
And it's, I don't know, I really liked seeing a well-shot stage version and I was relieved. And anyway, the songs are magical and everybody in it's great and I loved it.
Well, as you know, I'm a fan of the filmed stage stuff because I like the National Theatre stuff too. So now we're going to have to leave this episode on a cliffhanger because I haven't got to the other two elements that I opened with, sports documentaries and the interesting thing I've done at a festival. Right,
and we've just, I may have chewed up a bit. But I think we've had some Jeopardy in this episode. Like to go back to reality, like we've had Jeopardy, we've had tension, we've had emotion, it's had all the highs and lows, and now we're leaving you on a to be continued. Thank you very much for listening or watching. You can find more of our content on YouTube, or if you don't like to look at our faces, and let's face it, that would be fair enough, you can listen to us on Spotify or wherever else you choose.